12 new industrial parks were approved by the cabinet in August last year. Please share, the investor response towards those projects. How do you see, what is the work that has been done, and also how do you see it's going to help India become a global manufacturing hub? Over to you.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me over here. And the answer to that question would be very long. It will be almost what my corporation does. So these 12 which were approved last year in August, it's not something that this is out of the blue. It is built on the success of our industrial smart cities that were implemented or are in the process of implementation in last decade. So before these 12, we had another 8, out of which you might have heard about Dholera, Greater Noida, Shendra Bitkin, which are already built, and a lot of industrial units are running over there. A lot of manufacturing is happening. Dholera happens to be the first semiconductor city of India, and the first semiconductor fab plant is coming over there. So building upon the success of those projects and to take National Industrial Corridor program over to whole of India. It was earlier mostly concentrated in Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. From there, suddenly now we have projects across 7 corridors and 13 states. For that, government took that historic decision of approving 12 new projects at one go. Why do I say historic? In 10 years, 8 were approved, and at one go, 12 more were approved with a huge cost also. It's more than 28,000 crore rupees. And this shows the commitment of government towards building infrastructure that is not just connectivity or transportation infrastructure, but also infrastructure which can create direct jobs, which is industry and manufacturing.
Can you share what kind of industry uptake has been there, as of today? And is it also specific to large industries, or even you're seeing traction from MSMEs as well?
Yeah. So if I talk about the industrial uptake, it is very encouraging. So we actually started allotting to industry in a big way, let's say post-COVID, because the projects were approved somewhere in 2014, 15, 16. Construction takes 3-4 years, and then you start allotting. We have had so if I say one good example, in the month of June, July last year, we had investment of more than 50,000 crore in Shendra Bitkin, one particular city. And that is going to be the new electric vehicles hub in India. And that too, it is part of Marathwada, which is a relatively less developed part of Maharashtra. And now so I happened to be there just day before yesterday and yesterday. Now if you see the kind of bustling industrial activity that is happening over there. So the results have been very encouraging. And the kind of infrastructure that we have built, there is a reason why semiconductor plant of India was put in Dholera only and not at any other place, because that kind of industrial infrastructure is not available at any other place. As far as the MSME bit is there I think that we need to improve a bit more. We have built very good trunk infrastructure, but sometimes MSMEs don't, they lack too much in initial capital investment. They want to be near the cities, and unlike our greenfield cities, which are generally a little bit far from the city. So that's a discouraging factor. So what we have decided now under what in fact Honorable Minister has suggested, that we should build to suit or some kind of MSME sheds, where they can just come and they won't be even needing to build their building, just come with whatever machinery you require and start production. So that is one bit that we need to still resolve. Still, I would say there is MSME in Shendra, there is some MSME in Vikram Udyog Puri, there is MSME. So there are, but not to the extent that we would like.
So I take you to a very fundamental question. We have been talking about industrial parks for years now. How are these industrial corridors different, from the state-led industrial parks that we have in the country?
Can I answer again, give a long answer?
Yes, please.
So, just to put things in perspective, there are more than 4,000 industrial parks in India. It can be 4,300, 400, that kind of thing. Bigger states in India generally have 300 to 500 industrial parks. And when I'm saying industrial park, it includes those small industrial estates as well as huge industrial parks of 500 acres, 1,000 acres also. Out of these industrial parks, 80% or I should say 85% of industrial parks lie along the identified 11 industrial corridors in India. So it's not that these 4,000 odd parks are equally distributed across India. So what you perceive as less industrialized regions in India, they are actually less industrialized. You won't find a lot of industrial parks over there. So 80-85% of industrial parks lie along industrial corridor, whether they are, and when I say along, let's say I'm saying something is lying along the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, it means that it is 100 kilometer on either side of Delhi-Mumbai expressway, let's say. And these 80% industrial parks also cater to around 95% of manufacturing in India. So when we talk of industrial corridors, then we are talking of almost whole of manufacturing capacity of India, whole of manufacturing production, whole of production, industrial production in India. Now, these industrial parks, one, the internal infrastructure, when you talk of an industrial park, it needs to be power, water, effluent treatment plant, etc., etc. And similarly, very important is how they are integrated to the overall industrial ecosystem. So when there is some industrial park, let's say near Ahmedabad, then it has to integrate with all the logistic facility. It has to be integrated with the port nearby. It has to be integrated with the railway, with the power, with water, etc., etc. And in that sense, the industrial cities that we are creating, they will act, they are either acting already or they will act as growth hubs. So it is kind of a hub and spoke model where there will be these industrial smart cities, which will be the hub, and there will be spokes, which will be the industrial parks that are developed by the state. And to develop the whole ecosystem where these hub and spoke lie is the National Industrial Corridor Program. So this is how we are trying to solve this riddle of industrial infrastructure, by not just solving for the internal infrastructure, which an industry needs for production, but also external infrastructure, which is very much essential for the logistics part of it. And that is how all these things are connected to each other.
And how do you think, do you think that it's going to really help us with, to really capitalize on the China Plus One strategy? Because now we hear a lot of companies are diversifying their supply chain.
Well, what I would like to give it another spin. Yes, the China Plus One strategy is important, but irrespective of China Plus One strategy, we would need to develop all this industrial infrastructure. We would need to develop the transportation infrastructure. We need to improve our logistics. China Plus One it's not our decision that China Plus One is happening. It is the decision of those companies. So we need to leverage that opportunity that there are multinational companies which are thinking of relocating. So there we should come up as a viable option. If we lose this opportunity, maybe 20 years down the line, somebody might say Vietnam Plus One. Somebody might say Korea Plus One. So we need to up our game. These opportunities will keep coming. As of now, there is China Plus One. So yes, we should take that opportunity.
Will you be making a pitch to Tesla to come and set up here in one of the
corridors? I think the whole ecosystem is making a pitch to Tesla. I think the present EV policy, which was, I think it came in March last year or sometime. I think that's a good enough policy, and any manufacturer of electrical vehicle, any international manufacturer should come to India and should leverage that policy. It's a very attractive policy, I should say. So let's see, let's keep our fingers crossed. And wherever that particular company or any other company comes, I am sure that the government, whether it's federal or any state government, would be able to provide the infrastructure, industrial infrastructure of global standards. That much I can assure.
And so, what, like, have you seen any impact or do you foresee any impact of Trump tariffs, like on the uptake by the industry in these corridors?
Not in terms of material, as in it can't be calculated per se. Okay, this particular, for this particular commodity, the tariffs will be damaging. For this particular commodity, it will not be damaging. I think it will be more about sentiment and how we navigate the way ahead in next 6 to 8 months. I see a lot of complementarity between both the economies, and when there is complementarity, then tariff should not be an issue.
Okay, that's well said, sir. Technology, I mean, everyone's talking about AI, Industry 4.0. So can you talk to us about, what are the differentiators in these industrial corridors that you are looking at from a tech perspective?
So as I said earlier, so out of 4,000 odd industrial parks, we are just 20 industrial cities.
Right.
So in terms of percentage of supply, I don't think we can make a very big dent in the overall supply of industrial infrastructure. Where we matter, or the thing that we are trying to do through Industrial Corridor Corporation is, we are trying to set the benchmark in India of what kind of industrial infrastructure can be built. And that is the philosophy of our program. So we are trying to build not just huge industrial areas. So if you see a typical state government developed industrial park, it would be somewhere around 200 acre, 300 acre. We develop somewhere around 2,000, 3,000, 8,000 acres. And it is not just the size, we are also trying to set the benchmark in terms of technology. So earlier, it used to be more like what kind of CTP do you have, what kind of power, water treatment plant, etc. And now this additional element of Industry 4.0. And there also we are kind of front runner as in not in the competition, but front runner as in we are trying to tell the rest of the park developers, whether it is government park developers or private park developers, that this is how Industry 4.0 needs to be implemented. So we have all the basic paraphernalia, whether it is the IT connectivity infrastructure, IoT, integrated command and control center. And so if we are implementing Industry 4.0, 30% of the work will have to be done by the park manager, and 70% of the work will have to be done by the industry specifically. So we have done our bit, and there are industry in our parks which are doing their bit and trying to implement 4.0.
Other than technology, the ESG goals now are becoming very critical for companies. So what are some of the sustainability practices, green initiatives that are being inbuilt, in design in these industrial corridors? If you can share some pointers around that.
Well, on that, I would say my predecessors and as well as the leadership, the political leadership of my ministry and overall has been very, very futuristic. Even 10 years back when they planned for all these cities, they had inbuilt all these elements which will ensure that the ESG goals are implemented. Whether it is zero liquid, so all of us talk about ESG goals, but for an industry, what will it translate into? Let's say zero emission, zero discharge of pollutants. So all those things are there in our parks, and those things are integral in our parks. If you go to any other park, it would be okay if the industry puts it, it's okay. Here we don't depend upon the industry to put effluent treatment plant. It is part of the common utility infrastructure. So all those things are, and that is why even before the industries come to our industrial areas, we have got the project level environmental clearance. So there are no issues of environment related anywhere.
That's actually going to be a very big differentiator.
Yeah. That is why, in fact, investors come to our industrial areas.
Okay. And I believe also there are certain, problems that you've solved around land, considering that's also is one of the key issues. I see time's up, but very
Yeah, I
quickly.
also see time is up. And you have asked a question again for which answer is very long. So as far as our own industrial area is concerned, there is no problem related to land because we built it after the whole land is acquired and all. Only that after that government approves it. But the overall land riddle or land cost riddle is something that the policymakers at all levels need to work on how to. So obviously we cannot make the land cheap. What we can do, we can make the plans. So generally what we see, if you go to set up industry anywhere, you will lease the land for 99 years. So the flexible leasing plans, a good exit policy, if your industry is not working, you should be allowed to exit and you should not feel like that if I keep sitting on this land and keep doing inefficient production. So land should not be the reason for you to keep continue invested over there. So those are the things that I think next 5 years, many such policies will come and should come and will come, including, I would say, more private players coming into industrial park development. That is another trend that I'm seeing. I think if all these things are happen as we foresee, a lot of problems or a lot of issues that you raised would be solved.
Great. So I see time's up, and thanks a lot, Mr. Saini, for this.